Secret peeping. A DOT worker is placed on leave after being accused of burglary and peeping, where the investigation currently stands.
The heat is making a comeback. We're in for a scorching weekend. How high the temperatures will climb and when rain could return.
Jimmy Kimmel controversy. The late-night comedian show taken off the air indefinitely after comments made about Charlie Kirk. Tonight, we'll go in-depth on the media, power, and freedom of speech. Thank you for joining us here at 7 o'clock. I'm Dan Haggerty. So are you ready for things to heat back up into the 90s? It was nice. We had the 60s and 70s for a little bit, but it's about to heat up a lot. Like, I hope you didn't put the swimsuit away just yet. Meteorologist Kat Campbell joining us. It's going to be a warm weekend.
Absolutely. It's hot tomorrow, 90 in the Triangle. The key here is the humidity isn't going to be terrible, so at least there's that. 86 in Roxborough, 90 for Rocky Mount, Durham, and Raleigh, 92 degrees in Fayetteville tomorrow, mostly sunny and hot. That's the case again on Saturday, mid to upper 80s in the forecast, mostly sunny, and Sunday, not quite as hot. Temperatures are in the lower 80s. Lows this weekend are in the mid 60s, so really not that cool at night. The muggy meter is key, though, when it starts to heat up this time of year, and we're going to hover around the mid 60s for dew points, so that puts us between the tolerable and close to the steamy category, but overall not too bad humidity-wise. And this is going to be a change for us. When you look at the last time that we experienced above normal temperatures, that was at the beginning of the month. So it's been a little bit, almost 2 weeks without them. We've seen below normal temperatures over 80% of the month of September. We also have growing drought across the state. I'll have more on that in the new drought monitor released today ahead.
Yeah, we could use some rain. Thank you, Cap. Raleigh police, they arrested a state DOT worker accused of peeping. Brian Mayhew now faces several charges and is out on bond. WRAL's Willie Danley is joining us live from the street. Police say this all happened. Willie, you tried to talk with that suspect today.
Yes, I did, Dan. Just over an hour ago, we went to Brian Mayhew's house. He answered the door, but as you can imagine, considering the crimes that he's accused of committing, he did not want to answer our questions. I want you to take a look at this video. This is the neighborhood that Raleigh police are telling us this incident took place in. Police say they responded to a burglary call earlier this week, and their investigation led them to file charges, which then led to Mayhew's arrest. In addition to felony breaking and entering, Mayhew is charged with felony secret peeping by installing cameras and recording without consent. He was being held on a $10,000 bond, and he bonded out of jail earlier this week. I spoke to several people who are living in this neighborhood, and they tell us that these crimes are extremely disturbing. Mayhew is just one of several men that have been charged with similar crimes over the last month. We're going to continue to remain out here and speak to people in this area about what happened and their reaction to the crime. Willie Danley, WRAL News, live in Raleigh.
And this is Brian Schrader, the WRAL Live Center. All new at 7 o'clock, we're getting some new video of a deadly plane crash out in Macon County in the western part of North Carolina. This happened just north of Franklin this afternoon. Here's that new video from the NBC station in that area. This is what we know. It crashed on property adjacent to the Iola Valley Elementary School. Thankfully, no one at the school was injured in this incident. Happened around 3 o'clock this afternoon, and the FAA says 3 people were on board that small plane. The Macon County Emergency Management Office says that there were no survivors on the aircraft itself. The NTSB and the FAA now are investigating what caused that plane to go down, and the State Highway Patrol is also playing a role in this investigation. It did happen very close to the airport there in Franklin.
Brian, thank you. Let's get you caught up now on some of today's other big headlines. These are the 5 things you should know right now. A man accused of stealing a car and kidnapping a toddler, triggering an Amber Alert, appeared in Sampson County Court today. Court documents showing that the suspect you see here, Tyler Tootle, was ordered not to talk to the child's mother twice. Prosecutors are asking a judge to put in another order barring him from talking to her after his latest arrest. He's currently in jail on a $500,000 bond and faces charges in 2 counties. A Johnston County lawyer is accused of embezzling nearly $3.5 million from his law firm and clients. Corey Kiger faces several felony charges. Investigators say he took money while working at Walker Kiger PLLC. His former partner is the one who told us he reported Kiger to the state. Today, Governor Josh Stein met with the family of the woman killed on a train in Charlotte. Her killing sparked national outrage. State lawmakers plan to introduce a bill next week trying to crack down on crime. Stein has said the state needs better training and accountability for magistrates. Every state park that was forced to close during Hurricane Helene is now back open. What a milestone. The storm caused widespread damage, of course, to 13 different parks. Some of them, like Mount Mitchell, didn't reopen until this week, nearly a year later. Next week does mark the 1 year since that storm slammed into our state. William Peace University got its biggest donation ever. A woman who graduated in the 1950s gave the school $5 million. She actually died last year, but she had left that money before she passed. It could get more expensive to go to college within the UNC system. The Board of Governors met to talk about raising tuition by 3% for in-state students. Here's what that looks like. UNC students would pay about $105 more per semester. NC State students would pay about $56 more. System leaders say schools are facing rising costs from inflation.
This is about balance, about strengthening our universities while keeping opportunity within reach for the people of our state. That has always been the mission of the system, and with careful stewardship, it will remain so for generations to come.
This would be the first tuition increase for in-state students since 2017. A final decision won't come until next February. We'll stay on top of this. Just last week, though, if you watch here regularly at 7 o'clock, you'll see we went in depth on the rising costs to build housing on campus. UNC is set to build a new dorm that will cost $110 million. You can go onto our website and read all about this right now. You'll hear from a Board of Trustee member shocked by the price tag. Also get a breakdown on the cost per bed and how this makes affording college even more challenging. So we actually have a brand new in-depth for you tonight. There's been a whole lot of talk lately about talking. What I mean is freedom of speech is back in the news again after Jimmy Kimmel was suspended. But the First Amendment isn't all that's at play here. This is a story about power, money, politics, and a lot more. Seems like the kind of thing to go in depth on. So we're going to do just that after the break. Okay, let's talk about Jimmy Kimmel. He and his late night show are off the air indefinitely after something he said during the open monologue. Here's that clip.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
Okay, so now he is off the air, and some people are up in arms about this, calling it cancel culture or hypocrisy from the right, and some confusion around freedom of speech. So let's try and unpack all of this tonight. Where to start? So first, Jimmy Kimmel works for ABC. Why does that matter? Well, ABC, just like NBC and CBS, they are on public airways. So all you need is the rabbit ears to tune in. That means that they kind of play by different rules than the cable news networks that you have to pay for, like Fox News, CNN, Newsmax, etc. Today, the FCC chairman explained that on CNBC when he said this.
Broadcast TV is different. We're on a cable show right now. You don't have an FCC license. You don't have an obligation to serve the public interest. Podcasts don't either. Stand-up comedians, whether they're on lots of forms of communications, don't. And Kimmel is free to do that. But if you have a broadcast TV license, that means that you have something that very few people have. And you're excluding other people from having access to that valuable public resource. And it comes with an obligation to serve the public interest.
So, because Kimmel said what he said on ABC, he is held to a different standard than the stuff you see on, Fox News. And there's no shortage of hot takes on that station. One of their anchors, Jesse Waters, said this when commenting on Charlie Kirk's assassination.
They are at war with us. Whether we want to accept it or not, they are at war with us. And what are we going to do about it? How much political violence are we going to tolerate?
Now, you may see both of these people as influential voices sharing similar messages of accusation and division. But again, only Kimmel works for a network on public airways, held to account by the FCC. Here is another clip from the FCC chairman basically saying if ABC didn't drop Kimmel, he would.
But frankly, when you see stuff like this, I mean, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct, to take action, frankly, on Kimmel, or, there's going to be additional work for the FCC.
This is just the latest installment of the Trump administration threatening the big broadcasters. Last month, he posted on Truth Social saying ABC and NBC should lose their licenses. But before the FCC could act, Kimmel was already dropped. But not by ABC, not at first. It was actually Nexstar that made the first move. Who is Nexstar? Well, they are one of the biggest media companies in the country. They own 200 stations nationwide. Some of them are ABC stations, some are NBC, some are CBS. They actually own the CBS station right here in Raleigh. Across the country, Nexstar can reach about 68 to 70% of U.S. households. This is kind of something that most people don't really think about or understand when it comes to your local news. You see, ABC doesn't own or operate every local ABC station in the country. Most of them are owned by massive, publicly traded media ownership groups, and Nexstar is the biggest one. Here is a list of the top 5. For instance, WRAL is on NBC and Fox, right? But we aren't run by NBC or Fox. We are owned by a Raleigh company, Capital Broadcasting, and we have a mutual relationship with those networks. We give them the airways to access the people here in the Triangle, and they give us the big national programs to drive viewership and advertising. Why am I telling you all this? Well, hours before ABC announced that Kimmel was getting pulled, Nexstar pulled him first. Of Nexstar's 200 stations, 32 of them are ABC stations. Again, why exactly does that matter? Well, because Nexstar is trying to buy one of the other top 5 media companies, Tegna, which is pretty much a done deal, except they still need that FCC approval. Now, the speculation is if Nexstar moves against Kimmel, that will make the White House happy and then better their chances of getting that approval. Again, there is no proof to this claim. And I only bring it up because we just went through this with Stephen Colbert. He was also famously critical of the president, and his show was canceled just before the FCC approved Paramount's merger with Skydance Media. People accused Paramount of playing similar politics. But again, these are just accusations. The people making them say they are just following the money. But let's keep following it. Yes, Colbert was the #1 late night host, but that title means a lot less this year than it did last year and the year before and the year before. These shows have big staffs, the famous hosts have big salaries, and the ad revenue has not been keeping up over the past years. This is a trajectory that has been felt by every late night show, including Kimmel's. Business Insider reported advertiser spending on late night shows has been cut in half over the past 6 years, from $439 million in 2018 to $221 million in 2024. That is a pretty steep drop. So, what do you think? Is this about presidential power, money, business, politics? All of the above. It is worth thinking about. But I will say this. Freedom of speech is the First Amendment. That protects you from government censorship, arrests, or fines. But it doesn't mean you have a free pass to say whatever you want without consequences. Everybody has a boss. If you work for a company, you represent that company and its values and its coworkers and its goals. And if you say something that doesn't align with those values and those goals, the boss can fire you. If you are the boss, you still have a boss. It's your customers. Look at Bud Light, a recent famous example. What happened? They partnered with a transgender influencer, and the response was a huge wave of conservatives then boycotting Bud Light. In 1 month, sales tanked, and they lost nearly $1.5 billion. So what did Anheuser-Busch do? Well, they wanted to appease the people who weren't buying their beer anymore. So they pivoted entirely. They toned down the activist and LGBTQ support. They hired famous comedian Shane Gillis, a man who was once canceled, fired by SNL for old jokes that some people thought were racist and homophobic. Fast forward a few years, Bud Light is back. Gillis is huge, and he even hosted SNL, the place that fired him. Both back from cancellation because, well, money, business, politics, maybe in that order. But what does any of this have to do with you and your life and your job and your family. I know what it means to me, what I think, but I'm more interested in what you think about this. So let's keep this conversation going. Send me an email, dan@WRAL.com. I want to hear from you. Your thoughts, your input. All the intelligent viewers out there always help drive this segment. This is a complicated issue. There is a lot to talk about here. And I wonder if there is a piece of this you think we should be talking more about. Tell me what's on your mind, and we will go in depth. Kat?
Thanks, Dan. Really gets you thinking. Let's talk about the drought monitor. This came out today. No surprise here. We expected that there would be drought added. It's not widespread yet. The yellow is abnormally dry, and that's the warning stage before you actually get to a drought. That's what we're in for much of the triangle, including all of Wake County up toward Durham, south of Fayetteville and parts of the Sandhills, and then north and east of Rocky Mount toward Edgecombe and Halifax counties. In the tan color there, that's where we've got the moderate drought just starting to show up. We need rain, though. Everybody in our viewing area is running below normal for rainfall over the past month. I mean, we're looking at some pretty impressive numbers. The rainfall deficit, 2 to 3 inches for many of us. The one exception, a couple of spots in the mountains and then right over Charlotte, essentially from one storm that set up earlier. And let's take a look at our rain chances. Just not a lot of hope for decent soaking rain anytime soon. We are dry into the weekend and early next week. If you need to get yard work done, it's a good time to go ahead and knock it out. I will warn you, though, pollen levels have gone up a bit. Ragweed pollen is in the medium category. And something interesting about this, I actually thought it would be a bit higher, but I spoke to the folks over at the Southeast Regional Climate Center. They keep a database of historical pollen data. And this year, our fall pollen counts have been pretty low for the season, running impressively low. So good to hear if you do have fall allergies. A live look at Fenton and Cary. You can see a nice sunset in the distance there. The heat's coming back, though. 90 for the high tomorrow, 87 Saturday, and 82 on Sunday. It's our last weekend of summer. It's going to feel like summer. Monday starts fall with seasonal temperatures in store. Football Friday tomorrow starting out pretty toasty for the kickoffs. Temperatures will be in the 80s and by the end of the game in the 70s. Comfortable on the bleachers. For the Duke-NC State game in Durham Saturday, it is going to be pretty warm. Temperatures should be around the mid-80s at kickoff, and UNC will be in Florida, where there is going to be a chance for storms. It's hot there, 88, and it could be a bit breezy for that game as well. A quick tropical update for you. Tropical storm Gabrielle has top winds of 50 miles per hour today. A little bit more thunderstorm activity starting to blossom around the center. Really didn't look very impressive on satellite earlier today. High pressure should take control of this system. The Bermuda High steering it in the upper levels of the atmosphere out to sea and away from the East Coast. We are keeping an eye on Bermuda. Today, models have trended east, which is good news for Bermuda. They may escape the worst of it. Your 7-day forecast starting out pretty hot. Temperatures back off a little bit Sunday into Monday, but our lows are in the mid to upper 60s every day for the next 7 days. So we're not going to quite have those cooler mornings in store. Next week, the heat builds back in. Highs should be back in the mid to upper 80s by the middle of next week. We had to bump up temperatures because we lowered rain chances. Still watching for some rain on the horizon. Fingers crossed by the end of next week we'll get it.
The heat sticks around. Thank you, Kat. Dozens of kids in Durham all travel to school together, not on the school bus. They take the bike bus. One last thing after the break. But first, let's get you geared up for what's going to be a warm weekend. There's a lot happening out and about. One last thing, and any parent knows the pain all too well, carpool lines, the honking, the waiting. Well, a group in Durham has another way. It's called the Bike Bus. Students bike to school together. Adults lead the way, making sure everybody's safe, and a bunch of students at Southwest Elementary do this every Friday morning. I love this. They bike down the East Coast Greenway, listening to Frozen, flashing their bike lights, laughing at some dad jokes. We heard from the dad who started it all.
Unfortunately, there's too much division, there's too much fear, there's too much anger. And so what we're trying to do is build community on these miles of smiles of the East Coast Greenway.
You said it, buddy. I like it. The bike bus started 4 weeks ago with just 4 students. Now, more than 45 kids are pedaling their way to school on Friday mornings. Even other schools are now getting involved in this. Parents at E.K. Powell and Lakewood Elementary Schools started their own bike buses.
You don't have to have 45 people for it to be a success. We're transforming lives one little child at a time. So just get out and do it with the 3 kids or with 100 kids.
So even if you don't start a bike bus in your neighborhood at your school, you'll soon get a chance to see how you like it. Durham and Wake County Schools will host a walk, bike, and roll to school day. That's October 8th. So make sure the tires are pumped up, ready to go. Thanks for making WRAL your choice for local news. More news to come tonight. We'll see you then.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.